Hey everyone, so today I wanted to film a tutorial on how I make backdrops for dolls. I use backgrounds for my doll photography, and you guys have also seen them in our episodes of As Told by Dollies as like our sets. While I do have a video on my channel already about backgrounds, it's from sometime last year, I didn't actually show the process of me making one. So this is going to be a part 2 to that video where I show you on camera step by step me putting together one of these bad boys. I have shown clips of me doing this in fast forward on Dolly Diaries. I will link my original video so you can hear like my perception on the benefits of using backdrops, why I choose to make them out of the materials that I do, and at the end of this video I'm going to show you all of the backdrops we have to date. There are way more. I feel like I made the first video prematurely because I had just sort of dabbled in it, but I have tons and tons of backdrops now, and I'm obsessed with making them and using them. And I'm actually the one that makes these. I think some people got confused because Colleen is always the one setting up photos against them. I make the backdrops and most of the artsy craftsy stuff for the dolls. Colleen sets up the photos and then I shoot the pictures and edit the pictures. So that's kind of how our system works. For the supplies, in terms of the actual structure, I use one of these large moving boxes from Walmart. This is the 18 by 18 by 24. And I like this size because I photograph American Girls and really tall Barbie playsets. So for the most part, having this box when trimmed down, like when you trim the flaps off, it works for universally for most dolls 18 inches and under. You can even do slightly taller dolls because you have plenty of headroom. If you aren't interested in photographing really large things and you want a smaller size backdrop, then by all means you can get smaller boxes. This just works for me. Some houses, like my Barbie Grand Hotel and some of my dream houses, are taller than this, but you can still use a backdrop in combination with those play sets if you're going to be cropping the photo anyways. Then I like to use Mod Podge and a sponge or a brush to apply the adhesive. I've used different methods of attaching these. I've stapled the materials down before, but that would only work if you're using a roll of something, and honestly it kind of pokes you when you go to pull it out of storage, so I like the glue method better. I've used spray glue, but I found that didn't really stick the paper down well to the box, so this is what I like to use, but you can use any type of glue that you want. Just be careful when you're applying liquid glues, because depending on paper you're applying, it might cause it to wrinkle a bit, but that can be masked by this clear contact paper. I'm pretty sure in my first video I made about backdrops, I actually hadn't started using this, and I feel like this is a major step here that you don't want to skimp out on. So this is peel and stick clear laminate. It's basically just clear contact paper. I find this in Walmart in the kitchen section where they have all of the different contact paper you can put inside drawers. They usually have clear. There's other brands. I like this kind, the peel and stick. That's 12 by 36. The reason why I like this one in particular is it's a little less than $6 a roll, and you can do 3 sides of one of these huge backdrops. So this is obviously not cut down to size, but basically it does 1.5 boxes. So from one big box, I double side these, I get 2 backdrops. You can choose to only have 1 backdrop on a box, so that way when you fold it up it's less likely to get wrinkled. Because I have so many, I really wanted to maximize my space, that's why I made mine double-sided. But this will give you 3 enormous backdrops, just about, maybe a hair less or a hair more depending on if you have trouble laying it down. And you can kind of lift this up and reposition it the first few times, so it's not like if you roll this down on your paper it's immediately going to be super stuck. I usually have to tape down the ends, so you're going to need tape. So while we're talking about the contact paper really quick, I'm just going to explain why I use this and why I really recommend it. So this is like a protective layer that you put over your work. It's going to prevent things from ripping, from getting stained, that general wear and tear of being folded up, And this is gonna provide some kind of glossiness, so when you photograph, I'm assuming you're using the backdrops for photographing, the light is gonna bounce off and reflect onto the dolls, and it's going to make the overall picture more vibrant and clearer. So that's why I really like to use this. I have a few that are really old that I haven't papered yet. And I can definitely tell the difference in the photo quality and also how they've held up over time. They've gotten a lot more battered because we've obviously had them, some we've had for a few years now, and they don't hold up to the test of time as well. So even though it makes the project a little bit more expensive by having to buy one of these rolls, I just find them really, really useful. And also the pro is that if you want to stick things temporarily onto the background for a given photo, you've seen like Colleen and I did this for As Told by Dollies, and in a lot of photos we'll hang like posters up in doll rooms and pictures and things. We just use that wall mounting putty, it's like blue sticky stuff, and it sticks really nicely to the clear contact paper and it peels off without leaving any marks. If you use a more porous paper or the straight cardboard, it could leave a mark. It might be harder to get off. And also scissors to cut things out and something to trim the tabs off the box. I like to use like this box cutter razor blade thing, and I also use this old backing of a picture frame to get a really clean line, but you don't have to do that, you can just cut with scissors. And then you're going to need things to decorate with. I touched upon some of my ideas in my first video, but I'll reiterate some. So you can use wrapping paper, you can use contact paper. That's a little more expensive and it probably won't stick as well, but you can use that. You can use old wallpaper, scrapbook paper, this huge box of scrapbook paper. For my birthday this year, I got a gift card to Michael's and I bought some scrapbook paper sheets, pads that were on sale. So this is the only one that's still intact. This is actually cardstock. This is a little bit thick, honestly, for gluing down. This gave me some trouble, but you can use cardstock. But I have tons of these like sheets of scrapbook paper that I ripped out of my books because they were pretty much all getting really skinny. And you can get them at Michael's for full price or expensive. I got mine on sale for $6 or $7 each. Or you can buy them at Walmart and you can get a whole pad of 48 sheets for $5. And the only difference is that the Walmart paper is quite a bit thinner, so again, when you're applying the glue, it's going to wrinkle more. You can take apart your calendars every year. So I've been doing this for a long time. I decorate my doll shelves this way, but you can see I have all of these different calendar pictures. The nice thing about using the 12 by 12 scrapbook paper or calendar pictures is that you need exactly 12 sheets to cover one side of one of these boxes. So it's 6 on top and 6 on bottom. Whereas when you're using the roll of wrapping paper, you'll need to trim it down. There's all different kinds of materials you can use. So this is my box of goodies that I use for making backgrounds. I actually have a second one of these, but that holds construction paper and things along those lines. So these are all recycled materials for the most part that I use for making various crafts. So I have a bag of stickers. You can use stickers. I'm really weird, I cut out things from magazines. So this is all like flower pictures I cut out. These are packaged food, home decor, prepared foods, and I will show you the backgrounds I made using these kinds of things. Baked goods, fruit and veggies, and these are all just those flyers I get in the mail for free for various restaurants, or sometimes I get like home decor ones that they randomly put in my mailbox. I also have some like American Girl stationery, and these are old Harry Potter Valentines. I have a bunch of just scrap paper. This bag here is miscellaneous. Sometimes I save the backs of doll boxes to use for things. I also cut gift bags. I have greeting cards. So this is a really great way to recycle cards you get. Obviously, the Christmas season just happened, and I got like different cards from people, so I just cut off the fronts of them to use for like a holiday themed background, because I don't keep like all my cards because most of the time people just sign their names in them, so that's a good way to reuse that. And then I have things that I made for videos. Some of these might look kind of familiar if you have been watching my channel for a long time. So I have things like that. You can use coloring book pages. Those are in my other box of goodies. Really anything you can think of. I would just recommend not doing anything too three-dimensional, because you do really want to use this clear contact paper, and you have to keep in mind that you want it to lay pretty flush. So step one is to remove these tabs on the box. You don't want to keep these because you're going to get a gap when this is folded out, and that's not going to look nice for photography. I mean, if it's really important to have the extra few inches, if you really want a background that's super tall, you can do that, but you'd be better off using one of the tri-fold boards you can buy at Walmart that cost more. And also these boxes, these large ones, cost less than $2 each at Walmart, which I think is a really great deal. So you can use scissors, but I like to put this picture frame on the fold, and then I kind of sit on it. And then I cut. Now one of the tabs has been removed. I'm going to repeat this on all four sides, and you can save these tabs for other projects. Sometimes I like to save them just as like test cardboard. I will say that once you get down to like the last layer here, you might want to put something underneath. So depending on where you're cutting and if you're using a blade like I am, so you don't scratch the floor or whatever surface you're doing this on. Okay, so now I have the tabs cut, and it's still connected at one side, so I like to find the seam and cut along the seam. And so now you will be left with one big strip of cardboard. And it's okay if the ends are a little bit weathered looking, because you're not really going to see them when you take photos and you cover it all with paper. So once your cardboard has been cut, lay out the paper or whatever supply you're using to coat the panel, and make sure it's all laid out in the way you want it ahead of time, so that you can plan it, because once you glue it down, obviously you can't lift it up. So this is my first layer. I'm going to glue this down, and then I'm going to add the accents. This is just my preference. I will start on one row, so I will do the whole bottom row and then the whole top row, and just work from one side to the other. I'm just going to brush the glue on in a thin-ish layer, but not too thin. And you have to work kind of quickly because the glue dries quickly. And then I'm going to line my sheet up with the edge of the cardboard. And this is why it's important to cut nice straight lines when you're taking off the tabs. And this is the kind of thick paper, so obviously you can see it's rolling up a little bit. So I'm going to apply more glue as needed. And if you plan to put contact paper, as I suggested, over all of this, it's okay if the corners aren't 100% flat. It's going to be very hard to get it to all lay perfectly flat at first. And where the box folds, so this crease here, you'll want to make sure to apply extra adhesive. So now I have glued my first layer down. And like I said, sometimes the corners, no matter how many times you glue them, if it's a kind of thick paper, they might stick up a little bit. It's not a huge deal if you're going to use the clear contact paper. And then I placed some of my cutouts and I'm going to put those on. I have finished adding everything to my background that I wanted to add. I will say that I did purchase 2 little sticker sheets. These were 97 cents each at Walmart because I felt like my board was missing something. Now, the pro to using this clear contact paper that I didn't mention before is that it makes everything the same glossiness. So if you look at my board here, some of these magazine pictures have a gloss to them, whereas some of the other cutouts are matte. The stickers have a gloss. So putting this over makes everything one uniform glossiness, which I like. I think it looks nicer. It's much like when I see all my handmade stands. It just makes things look that much better quality. Already papered and did the back side of this board, if you were wondering. So I'm going to start from one end and work my way over. I always like to start at the bottom of the board for some reason. Now, if you've not used contact paper, it can be kind of tricky to get a handle on, but I've used it a lot for things. So you're going to need to separate the peeling back off from the clear contact paper. I only do like a few inches at a time. You don't want to pull it all out because then a bunch of things are going to get stuck to it. And you'll want to make sure you're doing this in a clean area because if there's any cat hair or dirt or whatever, it's going to get stuck to the contact paper. And then this is the part I have the most trouble with. It's keeping it lined up to the edges of the board. Now, in the past, I tried to leave like an inch from the edge, thinking I could like fold it over and it would act like tape, but like I said, this doesn't stick super well to cardboard, so you're gonna want to use extra tape after. It stays once it's on, but on the edges it might peel up and it's not gonna like act as tape. So if you get a little bubble, you can lift it up and smooth it out. Now you can use a ruler for this, or you can do what I do, which is I use my arm, and I kind of place my arm here as I pull the roll out. And I make sure to do it slowly because I find when I pull it quickly, the paper tends to skew at an angle, and then I end up missing either like the bottom here or I end up having extra hanging off, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to move slowly, and if you do, like mine is starting to come up a little bit, if you do notice that it's coming up, you can just cut it and then reposition. See that I can pick it up like this and reposition it. And I always like to, if I have to do that, to put a little bit of tape on the seam. And I also, when I go to do the top part, I like to tape a little bit between the seams. And you'll want to make sure to smooth it out. You might get a few air bubbles. Honestly, that's going to happen, especially if you are using papers of different thicknesses. There's going to be a little bit of space between the contact paper and the cardboard. That's all right because when you photograph, chances are you're not even going to see the bubbles. I have some where the paper might have wrinkled a bit from being folded, and you can't even tell in photograph. So don't worry too much if that happens to you. You're going to repeat, but I recommend cutting off this extra bit, the backing, before you carry on because it's going to get in the way. So I'm going to repeat this to the top, and it's alright if you get a little bit of gap between the top and the bottom layer of this paper. It's not a huge deal because you can use tape to cover up any of the parts you missed, so that way in the photograph you're not gonna get that difference in glossiness. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I'll show you when I'm done. So I finished using the contact paper over the top and the bottom. Now, right at the top here, you can see that there isn't anything covering like the top inch or two. This paper kind of went down a little bit at an angle. Now I'm not that concerned because obviously when you photograph things, you want to keep away from the edges by a few inches because you're going to crop the photo and you obviously wouldn't want to go past the paper, if that makes sense. You want to leave a little headroom anyways. But just to add some durability, sometimes I'll take this thicker tape, this packing tape, and I did this on the reverse side of the board because once in a while you'll have paper that might extend up a little bit higher. So I'll just put packing tape over the top here just to secure it. Alright, so now that the top has been taped down, I'll just take smaller tape, and this is more of like just a precaution. I will add a few pieces all around the perimeter just to ensure that as this gets used and it gets old from being folded up, that everything stays in place. And like I said, I'll add a few pieces to the seams where multiple pieces of contact paper met. And if you fold it and you ever notice that it's coming up, you can just add tape. The nice thing is that the tape is not going to be picked up on the photograph because it is glossy like the contact paper. So just make sure you're not using a matte tape. And I'm going to repeat this process all the way around. And also a little hack. So this happened to me one time. Sometimes the problem with doing a collage is that when you roll out the contact paper, the corner of one of your little cutouts might roll up and you won't see it. And one time I unintentionally put the contact paper over the whole sheet only to find a little picture had rolled up and folded over, and that looked really ugly. This is the perfect example of what I was talking about. The edge of this must not have been glued down right, so I'm just going to take a sticker and then I'm going to put tape over it, and there you go. Now if you plan to make your background reversible, and I don't mean like the back side, but I mean if you want to flip the top and the bottom. Now obviously this background could not be used that way because I have doors and you wouldn't want the doors as the sky, but let's pretend it was all like just polka dotted paper or something and you wanted to use, you know, say this side for the main focal point of the picture. So this would be like at the bottom where the dolls would be, and then you wanted this as the top, but then on another photo you wanted this to be the bottom and this to be the top. You'll want to make sure that you don't have any extra cardboard here, so you'll trim that off the same way that you trimmed off the tabs. You can either use a razor blade and a box cutter, or you can use scissors. I recommend the razor blade for that to get a nice clean edge. And you can do that after you've put the contact paper down. I'll usually trim it last. So keep that in mind when you paper it. So both of these sides are made so they can only face one way, because this one has words, so obviously I'm not going to use it like so, if that makes sense. And same over here. So I don't mind that I have this little inch of cardboard, but if that was going to be an issue, I would trim it down, but it's only going to be used this way. And the last step is going to be folding up the backdrop so it's more compact for storage. You don't have to do this step if you want to store the long piece flat. You can, but I bend mine anyways to kind of wrap around photos. So usually this isn't much of an issue. I just fold really carefully. But since the back side has some thick cards, I know it's going to be more difficult, so I'm going to kind of find my seam and then slowly using this picture frame to kind of help me fold. There you have it. It's all folded up, and I like to place my new ones at the very bottom of my pile. So over time, as you can see, this is going to kind of spring up a bit. If you put something heavy on it, it's going to weight it down nicely. And of course, these aren't indestructible. The more you fold them, you are going to get like little creases and stuff, but it's honestly not going to affect the quality of the photo. And if you add a little bit of extra tape, there you have it. So before I end the video, I'm going to show you all of the backdrops that I have to date. So as of January 2019, I'm definitely going to be making a few more. As you can see, it's been a few days since I folded this, and it's on its own. There was nothing on top of it. It started to flatten out. So this is a close-up of this box. This is like a holiday themed backdrop. There are recycled gift bags, cards, cutouts from magazines, American Girl catalog pictures, and then this is the reverse side. This is just supposed to be like a garden-y themed kind of one. I also want to say that for me, my personal style isn't meant to be realistic. I just use recycled supplies and things that spark my imagination. So then we have this one. All of this is scrapbook paper. And then this one, this is one I painted, and I actually mapped out where all the flowers were going to be. Then we have this side that was made with recycled calendar pictures. And then this reverse side is supposed to be for like a grocery store. So these are all magazine cutouts put on top of scrapbook paper. This is the one Colleen calls Fantasy Garden, scrapbook paper. And then I have little cutouts of flowers from magazines. This is another one with calendar pictures. This one is made with all huge sheets of paper that Colleen got from work. As is this side. So this is our restaurant themed one. This is all scrapbook paper. This is a Walmart scrapbook paper actually. And stickers as well as magazine cutouts. And then this side is again the same kind of thing. This is our bakery one. More scrapbook paper. This side is actually wrapping paper. This is all scrapbook paper as well. This is like my cactus themed one. And there's this reverse side, also all scrapbook paper. More scrapbook paper. Another scrapbook paper one. This is wrapping paper, and this has not been covered in contact paper yet. I found this in the basement, and again, it wrinkled. I'd use spray glue and staples for this. I don't recommend that because you can see it's not stuck down as well, and that causes wrinkles. This one is more scrapbook paper. This is also all scrapbook paper. This whole thing came from Walmart. All scrapbook paper. All scrapbook paper. More scrapbook paper. This side is wrapping paper. This is a shorty. This is actually the wallpaper that used to be in our kitchen. I found a leftover roll. This side has not had contact paper put on it yet, and you can see that it did wrinkle as a result. And then there's this side, which is all scrapbook paper again. This one is all scrapbook paper. This one is scrapbook paper with fruit cutouts. This is I think of it as my strawberry shortcake background. This is all scrapbook paper. This is what we call our library background. And then this is all scrapbook paper. Colleen calls this one the fantasy kitchen. This is also all scrapbook paper, but these are individual sheets I bought at Michael's. And then this guy is our beach one. This is all Walmart scrapbook paper, and then these are just stickers that I put over it. And then these are little like clings that came with my We 3 Friends pool. Again, all scrapbook paper. Another one that's all scrapbook paper. This is the newest one I made after the one in the video. These are all recycled Barbie pamphlets and Bratz pamphlets. And then these are also like box cutouts here, so you can see there's like Great Shape Barbies box, My First Barbies box. This one's really cool. This is what Colleen calls our fashion boutique. And that's what the huge pile of them looks like. If you're wondering, there are 19 boxes, and that would make a total of 38 different backdrops to choose from because they're double-sided. Thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize for the length of this video, but I wanted to do a really in-depth step-by-step tutorial on how I make these backdrops and all of the little hacks and like troubleshooting that I've learned along the way, because obviously I've made a bunch. These backgrounds aren't going to always look perfect. They're going to get a little wrinkled with age, but as you can see from the example photos I put in, that overall it doesn't really affect the quality of the photo, and the contact paper makes a huge difference in terms of the quality of the background itself and the photo. You can make these with any kinds of materials. You can make them in any kind of style. Obviously the ones I showed are my own personal style and like how I visually put things together. So if you find them tacky or you don't like the way I went about doing mine, you can make yours however you want. And you can check out my Flickr and see more of these backgrounds in action if you want. I did insert a few examples, and some of these haven't been used yet, but they were made specifically with things in mind. And I have so many because, like I said, I bought a bunch of books for my birthday, and I just find it really therapeutic to sit and make them. I'm a very like crafty person. I love gluing collages of things. So until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.